Hello, welcome to the Backyard Machine Shop. Today we're back working on the John Doe shaper. Now we've got the ram back off and we've started working on some internals. We've installed the bull gear, we've installed the drive mechanism that actually controls the stroke length. We've put in the drive bar that drives the ram and its pinion shaft. And it actually is working pretty good. Now I'm just driving this off of the front crank, but you can see how the stroke works on the shaper. It's slow, it returns real quick, just like most of them. Okay. Now I'm gonna move you in closer and let you look at this pinion or this adjustment mechanism. All right, guys. So up front here, I have a crank handle, and it drives a spur gear that's inside this casting, and it in turn drives this spur gear, which turns this screw, which shortens this stroke. So if you want to see what it's going to do, right now it's just so free it wants to crank the shaper. But you can see that gear is rotating, and then we're basically shorting the stroke of the shaper. So see, it's a little shorter now. All right, guys, I got you on the other side of the shaper. Now this is the crank that I was turning to run the bull gear and the stroke. And this basically is the adjustment. This adjusts your stroke. You loosen this clutch, and when the ram is in there, you can make the adjustment. Right now it's just too free to do that. Now the thing we're working on today is this is the pinion shaft gearbox. Now one of the things that I said earlier was this machine never received any lubrication, because right here at top dead center I have the fill hole for the Babbitt. Now watch this. It's probably right at 5 o'clock now. So there was no way that this thing had ever been lubricated. It was actually poured off the machine and poured on the, like I said, in the 5 o'clock position. So this shaft, and you can tell from this shaft, it never received any lubrication. Now if you look at this shaft, I polished it up, but along here it's in pretty rough shape, and this is the section that goes into the Babbitt, into the bearing housing. This section also is a little rough, and this section goes onto the back side. There's a guide back here for it to ride in, and it acts like a bearing also, and it's a little rough too. The section where the cone pulley is in really good shape, and the section where the spur gear, and the spur gear is a little slip fit here, and it goes in, and that's what drives the bull gear. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're preparing to pour the Babbitt for this housing, and this housing slips through. I'm just going to show you. That's where it goes. Look at this. That's how much plate was in that housing. So we're going to get ready to pour this bearing. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this shaft and we're going to put it in the lathe. And we've already reclaimed our centers. Okay, and we're going to put it in the lathe between centers, and we're going to turn this to a fresh surface where it'll be nice and smooth. This area here I'm not concerned with, and this area here I may turn later and fit a bushing to give it some support on that back side. We don't want to touch this side. So we're going to move over to the lathe. Well, before we do that, let me explain what I'm going to do. After we pour, when we set up to pour this, first thing we're going to do is melt all the Babbitt out of here. And then we're going to take, I got a little disc here, and I've just turned it to the rough diameter of this housing. And we're just going to slide it on, and we're going to bore this hole to the same diameter as the shaft's going to finish at. And that's going to center us in this housing. And we'll do the same thing on this back side. So just giving you an idea of how we're going to proceed with this. And so we're going to take this over to the lathe right now. We're going to set it up, and we're going to knock that shaft out. So I got you over here at this old 748, the Pratt & Whitney, and we blued up the surface we want to cut. I did it for two reasons. One, I want to know when I get down to that surface. Right now it's 1 3/8 is what I think this shaft was originally. It varies along it. Also lets you see how bad it is. So we just got a little high-speed tool bit coming in here, and we're going to make a cut, just a light cut. Let's take 20 thousandths off. Might be enough. All right, guys, you can see we hit here. We hit here, and then we hit here, and maybe a couple of little spots along there. We're going to pick up the speed a little bit on the I think that's dialed in another 10. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop it right there. All right, so we're getting down 1 3/8. So that's about 5 under that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a little cut here. I'm gonna slow the fees down. I want a good finish on it. I think we take 10 more. will be where we want to be. All right, guys, so we finished polishing, or finished turning the shaft, and it didn't clean up in a little area right here. I actually started polishing it out before I showed you this, and then there's a little area right here. I'm not going to worry about those. Getting it ready to go onto the bearing and getting the Babbitt poured. So, hey guys, we out here, and I'm gonna make an attempt to pour this Babbitt for this bearing. So this is our bearing housing, and we've already come in and cleaned it up a good bit. And this is the old Babbitt that came out of it. 3 little puddles. Some pretty raunchy stuff come out of it. So I'm not going to reuse that Babbitt. I got some fresh Babbitt, and here it is right here. So we're going to have all fresh bearing Babbitt. And so what I've done to set this up is I've turned a couple of little pieces here. I've turned this piece, the inner diameter. The inner diameter fits the shaft tight, and this outer diameter fits the bearing good and tight. And I did the same thing on this side. The inner shaft fits the inner board fits the shaft nice and tight, and the outer board, now this one doesn't fit as tight because there's a taper on this. There's a chamfer around this edge, so it's just turned to where it'll center it and seat it, and that's what we want anyway, is just make sure everything is centered in this bearing housing. Now, I have only poured Babbitt once or twice in my life, and I've never done it on a bearing housing that does not in 2 pieces. So what I want to do is I want to create some clearance in there, and I've read, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide. Now we've already taken and cleaned this shaft up and polished it up. It's ready to go. We're going to slide this newspaper. Now this was wet newspaper when I was trying this out, and when it was drying out it kind of was pulling apart. So what I've done is I took a little bit of painter's tape, and I'm going to tape it back up. But we're going to take a couple pieces of painter's tape and kind of hold it together. Now what I'm going to do, I got two collars that we're going to that's going to hold all this together. So we're going to put this together, and then we're going to take it inside, and I got to do this before the wife gets home. Take it inside and put it in the oven for about 30-45 minutes. Let it all heat up to around 300 degrees, and then we're going to come out here and start melting our Babbitt and making our pour. Okay, so what we need to do first is the shaft goes in like this. Alright, so we got our shaft, and we'll put the big side on first here. Like I said, these are pretty tight fits. Now, the cool thing about this machine, there's no markings on it anywhere about who made it, whatever, but just about every machine piece has got two sixes on it. So that tells me whoever inspected it, they did stamp off on it. So put that on nice and tight in our shaft collar. And I thought I had an Allen wrench here, or I'll have to go get one. Alright guys, I had to go get a wrench. So we want to push this on as tight as we can. And tighten up this collar. Alright, so we're going to turn that around this way. And now this one, like I said, is really tight. Tight fit all the way down. Alright, so we got our newspapers in there. Alright, so everything's in place. So our next step is we're going to take some of this damming material. Now I used to use Babbitt, but I don't make it anymore from what I understand. We just want to kind of just dam this up all the way around. You want to put it everywhere you think it can leak out of. I see one problem I'm going to have, and that's going to be I can't get the Babbitt down in there. But that's such a tight fit, I really don't think it's going to leak. Okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. So we're going to wrap it up in there anyway. If it spills out there, it won't go out on the ground and we'll still get a good pour. Alright guys, so there you have it. We've got it set up and ready to go. Now we're going to take it inside and put it on some foil and on a cookie sheet and let it heat up for, like I said, about an hour or so and get up to 300 degrees. Then we're going to light up and we're going to melt us some Babbitt and pour. Alright guys, so here we are. We're back outside. Still have the bearing housing in the oven heating up. It's just about where I want it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and start lighting light off the cooker here, and we're going to start heating up the Babbitt. So I got a gas tank over here. Now I don't know how many people has messed with jet cookers, but really and truly they're easy to light, they're easy to deal with. The best way to do it though, the safest way to do it is to light you a piece of newspaper. I'm just going to keep it at a moderate flame. The last time I think I shot a video using this thing, it got so noisy that everyone kind of complained about it. So we're just going to keep a moderate flame. Place our ladle right there. Let me get a fire brick. Got our ladle sitting there, and we're just going to drop in the Babbitt, let it start cooking. This is probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 pounds of Babbitt. I'm sure it's way more than we need, but I don't want to run out. One of the times I did pour Babbitt bearings, I didn't have quite enough and had to report. So we're just going to put that in there just like that. And let it cook down, and then once it gets melting down, I'll go get the bearing housing, and we'll bring it out here and set it up, and then we'll pour the Babbitt. There, I've always heard that when it starts burning your stick, you're at the right temperature. Still need to get, yep, stick's catching on fire, so get some of this crap out of it. So here goes nothing. See if all our work paid off. Alright guys, so looks good from here. Now to let it cool off and we'll take it apart. No leaks anywhere. Alright guys, so first off I want to apologize. I blocked your view when I was pouring it and you didn't really get to see what was going on. When you're doing stuff like this, you know, you're kind of focused on what you're doing, and you know, if I have to pour it again, I promise you, you'll get to see it. So it's cooled down to the point where I can handle it. I mean, it's probably still 90 degrees or so. So we're going to start pulling this stuff off. And we're going to take a look at it and see how good a job I did. And this stuff is reusable. You just put it right back into the bag. Like I said, the good thing about Babbitt, and I don't see any leaks anywhere. So my setup worked pretty good. I'm hoping it filled everything up. The good thing about Babbitt is if you don't get it right, just redo it. Because everything is reusable. You mean the Babbitt's reusable, the compound, the damming compound's reusable. You know, it gets nasty after a while, but it does it good. So we're going to take the collars off. And these are just 5/16 or 1 5/16 collars. The actual shaft size is a little under 1 5/16. So these work real good. I thought I was going to have to make some custom ones. Whoo, that looks good. Now this side I was hoping would do what it did. If you look in here, I wish I'd showed you a picture of it before, but there is a face. Guys, so I moved you closer. Now let's look at this end. Now it did exactly what I wanted it to do. I left a little bit of room when I pushed this down for it to fill. There is a face that gets a thrust surface right here that's cast iron. Well, it had worn and broke out. I don't know if it broke from somebody beating on it or what at some point, but I wanted this Babbitt to come in and form and fill that area. Now what I'll do is I'll take this on the lathe and put it on the lathe and just face it down, and we'll have a good even surface. All right, so we look good on that end. Now this one's a tight fit inside. That's really good. There's a little burr or something right on that keyway. Alright guys, look at this. Got it filled all the way around. Very little seepage. That means that thing was on there good and tight. Now, what we got to do is get this shaft out. Now we may have to take this to the shop and press it out. Part of putting that paper in there was to give me some clearance. So we got the shaft out. We had to kind of press it out. But I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't know if you could get a better fit. We're probably gonna have to go in there and scrape what is hanging up on right now. It's hanging up here where this wrapped around that smaller end of that shaft. That's that high spot that you see me having trouble with the bushing. Anyway, there we go. I mean, it's a dead fit. We're probably gonna have to put some polish the shaft down a little bit, and we may have to scrape in the bearing a little bit to get some. I call that a successful pour. Again, look at the, I mean, there is absolutely no slop. So once we get it past that little burr right there, and you can look and see where it's scraping. All right, guys. So I guess that's going to do it for the Babbitt pour, and in the end of this video. I think we were pretty successful. I learned a lot. I hope somebody else learned something. The newspaper, would I use it again? I was expecting it to burn off, and it didn't all burn off. So there was some, that's part of the reason it was tight in here. I had to clean some of that out. But I don't know any other way of doing this and getting the shaft back out. You could soot the shaft like you do on a regular one. It might help out. But anyway, it's such a nice tight pour that, I mean, seriously, there is no better fit than what that is right there. Now on the inside, it's not. There's some bumps and things in there that need to be scraped away. But other than that, I mean, there is no play. And remember, this bearing had no way of oiling it, so it had went its whole life without any oil or grease. So we're going to take it now and we're going to put it in the machine. It'll probably be in another video or at another time. And we're going to drill and tap a location for an oiling hole, and that way we can oil it. We're going to have to get it on the machine to see where it needs to go though. Okay, so with all that said, from the Backyard Machine Shop, so long.